All right. Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Jenna Hurst podcast. And I had this thing I meant to do before I hit record, which was to pronounce your name and hear it pronounced. So I'd love for you to say your name, tell the people who you are, what you're up to, and just I just also want to shout out, thank you for being a yes to being on the show and just being here with me fully.
Absolutely, yes. Without a pronunciation guide, my name is a little bit challenging. So I'm Safrianna Luna. I always tell people it's Saf like sapphire, Rihanna like the singer, and then Luna like the moon. So Safrianna Luna, and I go by the moniker the Queer Spirit Guide. I am a retired but licensed mental health clinician, and I'm just passionate about helping people actually be authentic, and that includes me in the equation. That's what I recently realized. I was like, oh, yeah, we're breaking free. Let's go.
I love that. And I mean, just instantaneously, I know we've really not talked much at all. And I just saw you and what you're up to. I'm like, yes, I just want to be in a room and have a conversation with you. And so already, as you start out the gates, I love the way, like retired. I have 15 years in the finance industry as a financial advisor, had, that high professional corporate persona that I lost. And I still have a lot of grief around it. And at the same time, as I come out of this and see other people who have retired, I'm like, fuck yes, I retired at 35. I'm just gonna say that. It feels way better to say I retired at 35, and I'm enjoying my retirement because
Yeah.
that's literally what it is. I'm not gonna wait until I'm 80 to retire. I retired at 35 while I still have energy and
Yes.
excitement in life and what do I
Right.
want to create at the second round of life. And so I'd love to ask, what do you see your, kind of after that licensed therapy life, anything you want to share in that, and just what you've kind of created for yourself or what you have created for yourself as a second round of life.
Yeah, so I'm really getting into sort of the bespoke services because I'm an intuitive and a healer and have that licensed therapist clinician knowledge, but I had to keep myself so in a box, right?
Mhm, mhm,
And just like a side note, I was actually a public school teacher before I was a therapist. So I worked in two very traditional, like, you are on all the time for your people and you're putting on a face of perfection, like, because you're just here to serve. And so in the second chapter, I really do. I'm a 6'2". And so when I hit 30, that was when I came out of my three line in human design and went into like, oh, I should figure me out now. And so this chapter of my life is really about my author journey. So I am a fiction and nonfiction author. I'm a poet. And so pretty much since I've retired again, that it feels weird to say that because it's not like I retired like an old rich white person and I'm like on beaches. No, like still very much working, but in a new
yes.
way.
Yes.
But I have published two books since then. One is a poetry collection that's all about overcoming trauma, and the other is a novel that's actually like semi-autobiographical, but about a queer couple who experiences pregnancy loss. So I like to like really get into the themes that people are afraid to explore, especially through writing and symbolism. So for at least the next 15 years, that's like my number one hat is the
Mhm,
author hat.
mhm.
And then is speaker and my guide work. And then I'm a CEO of a startup brand as well. So it's a lot of exciting things, but if I had to really narrow it down, I would say my writing is the most important thing to me at this point.
I love that. And I just instantly hear as you speak, not just were you a counselor, you're also for a teacher. So I'm just going to instantaneously, even though I know this answer, you're in the neurodivergent bucket like myself. So
Yes.
that's one thing I like to say for my audience. Most majority of people are in resonance with me there. Is we really have like so much to bring to the table. And at least for me, I'd love for you to speak from your therapist background and what you have added on in so many different directions and ways. This belief, I have it for myself that I am a master in so many areas and I still can't act like it. I still can't perform like that. I still can't like, oh yeah, I was a financial advisor once. You want me to help you with your finances? No, that's too much. I can't do it. Like whatever it is that it's like I've accomplished at such high caliber, yet I still can't see, believe, be that for some reason, some way. And I know my audience is neurodivergent, wanting to change the world, have all of this inside of them packaged up with like master doctorate level experience, yet still that first step, that first action is impossible. Anything inside of there that shows up that you, for the person listening.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's really important that we recognize that neurodivergence comes in so many different forms, and
Mhm.
we have all been really up until I would say like the last 5 to 10 years, this conversation has really begun to take off.
Mhm,
But before that, we were all, unless we were like diagnosed autistic as a young boy,
mhm,
right? Like
mhm,
keywords there.
mhm,
We were just kind of swimming in like, these are all of the expectations that are placed upon me, and I have to meet them.
mhm,
And most neurodivergent people can't actually meet that
mhm,
without an extreme level of masking, which
mhm,
I was very, very good at doing. I
mhm,
also have complex PTSD, so that's part of my neurodivergence. But I was so good at masking as a defense mechanism. But the problem with masking is that it leads to that burnout. It leads to that constant mental fatigue, and it leads to chronic illness. So
mhm,
then you have a lot of neurodivergent people that have been trying to perform
mhm,
at this societal high level that then get sick on top
mhm,
of already, having potentially brain wiring differences
mhm,
or brain wiring differences that have happened as a course of trauma or whatever else. And then you're still trying to get them to conform, and
mhm,
they're literally, their bodies are falling apart because of it. So to the people who are struggling with that, like, I want to validate and normalize, you're not meant to operate in the system, and the system is broken
mhm,
because it's designed for one kind of person,
mhm.
literally one kind of person.
Yeah,
And if you're neurodivergent, check, like, automatically you're crossed out. You're not in that one kind of person camp anymore.
yeah. You're
And
dysfunctional, you're disabled, out of the picture. Yeah, out of
and
it.
that's, yeah, and that's that. And like every neurodivergent person I've ever met, worked with, been friends with, myself, we have these really big dreams and goals. But we just can't make those dreams and goals happen in the prescribed one size fits all box.
Mhm, mhm,
So yeah, don't beat yourself up for it if you're like struggling with chronic illness, struggling with pain in your body, struggling with fatigue and like this malaise of I don't want to do it. Of
mm.
course you don't, because the system is freaking broken.
And I always just round and round and round every single day, I come back to this structure of the way in which human development of 0 to 7 meditated state, whatever that
Yep.
program of one person is literally your subconscious brain. There's science around 10,000, 20,000 more negative messages by the age of 10 if you don't fit that one person mold, which I
Yep.
mean, that's just the age of 10, not the rest of your life and the impact of not getting that. And so, so much shows up there. And I really saw newly as you were speaking that yes, it's quote unquote retired. It's just simply retired from pretending to be that one person. That's what we're,
Yes.
and it's not retired. We are tired from being that one person. Like I am like that whole thing and this experience of the word I like to say and normalize in a way, just from the definition in a dictionary, and being autistic, it's like that word retarded. It's like I am disabled in regards to operating as a computer, in regards to freedom, creativity, all of the spaces that I value highly that don't yet return income because we just haven't forced a community to create that ecosystem. Uh, I am quote unquote disabled, unable, like all of these things to that standard. And I just see the
Yes.
new world. I see where we're headed. I see what's possible. I think that's at 6'2" that I'm sure you see too. And we're trying to talk about it, except when you talk about it, it goes into woo-woo land, and that creates a whole other issue of demons and things that you just can't even be.
Oh my gosh.
I was programmed into a religious cult, so I get that PTSD in
Oh,
background.
yeah.
And really, quite honestly, just to push those that are here and what I'm passionate for, as you call yourself the queer spirit guide that brings a lot of this in, I would love for a minute to share just your heart regarding, at least for me, I was programmed as someone who believed the Bible and you know, one man, one woman concept. So that's the beliefs I carried for a long time. Well, I didn't believe them. Like there's a part of my soul that was like, this isn't okay or right. I stood in the
Right.
room and allowed it to be okay. And I never spoke up. And so
Yep.
that's something I do want to quote unquote take my time to speak into. And for those that literally are breathing on the planet today with other people that want them to not be breathing, like as a real
Mm.
thing inside of Christian culture. And so I just am very passionate about being really loud that my friends, uh, from my past life and my friends in my new life, my past life friends don't want my new life friends to even be in existence today.
Yeah.
So that's where I would love for you to share your heart of anything shows up navigating that space between for those like yourself or others in that space.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I just wrote a piece about this. For me, it's kind of interesting that I call myself the queer spirit guide because I don't look queer. I don't pass as queer at all.
Mhm.
And I'm polyamorous on top of that. So depending on who you see me out in public with, like I can ping as queer or not. And I recently had a situation. I was actually at a book signing and a woman came in looking for the children's authors, clearly not that, right? and and so she's asking questions about the children's authors, and we're like, sorry, that event was actually across town in another location today. We're not it. And so she's like, oh, well, tell me about your books. And so I gave a summary of the nonfiction, and then I introduced in one sentence my novel, and I said this is about a queer couple that experiences pregnancy loss. There's two things there that people could latch onto: queer or pregnancy loss. So many women have experienced pregnancy loss, first of all, that they're like clued into that. They're like, oh my gosh, you wrote about pregnancy loss? What? This woman, on the other hand,
Mm-hmm.
didn't see me as queer until she got up close. And then I said queer, and her whole demeanor shifted. And I mean, I could feel the energy, pop up like this cold, just glass wall. And she turned her back to me and she huffed out of the room. And so I've been very passionate lately about talking about things like that because I know from my experience, I was specifically a trauma therapist. All of this stems from trauma, and you're right on point that most of it's religious trauma. And I also grew up in a very like fundamentalist, there's one way to be kind of household, being told I was going to hell by the time I was like 4 and crying in bed over it and all kinds of
Same.
nonsense. And then it was my childhood abuser who, I won't get into detail, but it was him who said, oh, you're dating a girl, you're going to go to hell for that. And I'm like, "Well, okay, so you get a free pass, but I don't. Like, what's happening here?" And so that was when it started to open up for me. Like, something feels really wrong here because
Mhm.
I know that what's happening over here is gross and wrong and bad. But what I'm, when I'm with my little girlfriend and we're like watching anime together and stuff, that doesn't feel gross and wrong and bad. So what's happening here? So I know a lot of that is trauma, and I want to validate and normalize that when you've been told that a group of people is wrong for your entire life, it's really hard to unplug from that.
Mhm.
And that goes for racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia, whatever you grew up around, because we all
Mhm.
have those isms that we've been
Mhm.
exposed to. It's so important to get back to that root of compassion of like, well, what does love really mean to me outside of this paradigm of Sky Daddy, who
Mhm.
apparently has chosen some of us, but not all of us. That confuses me. That just
I
doesn't
can't
work
do
for
that
me.
at all. And the experience that I see, like, there's a version of us that was born in this world, and there's a version of us that we were told who we were. And for me, as I deconstructed, I essentially actually came really close back into it because of Christ consciousness, that whole thing. Like it all makes sense to me now. And
Yeah.
trying to be this space between of like, I see both worlds, I see heaven here, and I'm trying to translate both for everybody because I believe I was equipped for this and was made for
Yep.
this, and things wasted, and this is my purpose and why I'm here. I too, little autistic brain, was told I was going to go to hell if I didn't believe Jesus. And I was like, I don't get how to believe Jesus. So I haunted my whole life. That was my first
Yeah.
trauma of like, I
Yep.
had communion. I'm at 7 told to take communion, and I don't know how to believe Jesus. How do, like, what is this? How do I go to, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna go to hell. So every single day I'm like, hopefully I don't die because I don't want to go to hell. And that was my life every single day. If there's a natural disaster and I die, I don't know if I believe Jesus. And that was
Yep.
the haunting experience that I lived within. And so I spent most of my life trying to overcome that haunting experience. Landmark Forum was the catalyst for me at 35 years old. That's like when finally the catalyst broke off. So 35 years of my life haunted by fear of hell, when really, I mean, hell is here. Yes, it's something to be afraid of. And heaven is here too. Like hell is now, and heaven is
Yes.
too. And that we actually have access to heaven. If anything, it
Yes.
enrages me, as in the words of Jesus, if I preach a little, it is like everything he was coming for was for the very thing that we're going for. It's like, but then we're the bad, broken demon wrong. And really, quite honestly, I just see the two, that lady come up to you, you say queer, and it's like, I hate the word demons. I hate the context of demons. And it's like, that's literally what you saw cast out of it. Like, this literally the program that runs. It's literally that
Hmm.
system that hits that wall. And we are
Yeah.
here to liberate. We are here to be free, and just truly trust each person's connection to the divine, connection to their spirit, connection to whatever that is. Like, God is in control and
Yep.
on the throne, if you have to use religious context. We live in one nation under God, I believe. I don't know if you're in Canada. I don't know if that's different.
I'm in the US, but
Okay, yeah, that's like we live under that belief. And so that's what is our operating ruling authority when it comes to being a citizen here. And I'm like, okay, well, we are under the wrong God if that is what's happening. So that's
yeah,
what.
I could say a lot on US politics and we don't
Yeah.
need to go there, but yeah,
Yep.
it's definitely we're leaning ever more here towards that sort of Christian nationalism, like there is only one size for everyone, and that kind of stuff scares me, admittedly, because it's so false. And I've also, connected with my own Christ consciousness and like done my own religious and spiritual repair work and
Mhm.
found communities where I can be openly queer and openly polyamorous and like it be amazing.
Yeah.
But the level of fear and trauma that I continue to see on social media and the comments, I'm like, oh, I posted mid-June. I was like, it's a dangerous month to be reading the comments as a queer person, so I'm just gonna
Yes.
like go over here. But
Yes.
it was alarming how much people, again, it can be any identity, and I talk about this a lot. I really think it stems from the need for us versus them.
Mhm.
And unfortunately in religion, right, it's often our religion versus another religion.
Mhm.
And then from there can get broken down into, well, most of those people in that religion are this other color, right? They're another race or another ethnicity, or they're from another country, and
Mhm.
so they are less than, or they're evil, or they're demonic, or they're whatever. And then, it all
Yeah.
just devolves from there. So
And it really does dissolve and or devolve or all of that. I want to add one pace and then I want to shift us to simply because this energy, like, not that it's bad or wrong, because I want to have these conversations. I just know that people listening here are also in our bucket. So it's like, it's
yeah,
nothing new. We know it very intently. And I also like to acknowledge that that is what we needed to get us here. Like when it comes to survival and expanding the human race and evolution, tribes were needed, that protection was needed. We just got to
yeah,
we finished the race. It was done. How do we uncondition what got us here? How do we live the higher thriving? Yes, we got survival. We did survival to
right,
the place of thriving. Now we get to thrive. How do we actually decondition from, and not even decondition, how do we expand into the thriving state that we've all been evolving into? Like we made it, we finished it, we got it. Like, how do we play now? How do we have fun? And there's a
yeah,
shit ton of shit to be with. And what I hear is nature. I want you to go into that because I do see, I actually spent 30 minutes this morning just out in the sand, grounding and just moving energy and dancing, and actually got to see that as play in a new way. And just really this, like, we have quote unquote the shitstorm, all that we talked about. How does one, their nature, you can take it in any direction, be in this new world that works, that begins to create a world that works for them, that overcomes whatever is here to go into their kind of thing. Anything in that bucket.
yeah. So first of all, yes, want to acknowledge that we survived, and we are now actually today in a state where we have enough abundance that everybody could play in the sandbox. Everybody, right? And so
So,
we want to keep on doing the us versus them so we can liberate more and more space in the sandbox for everyone because it's here. Literally just fences built around it. So keep knocking the fences down. But nature, like there are so many different directions I can go with this because not only do we have our nature versus our nurture, right? Like human design, for example, could be seen as part of our nature. It's our inner workings, right? The inner system. And then we have our nurture, which comes with trauma and other people's opinions. Then we can look at nature versus nurture on an ecological level of actual, mother nature. And we see that the nurture has been to use her, steal her resources, not give enough back, like, all of this.
mhm,
And I see that as being the most profound disconnect that's causing so many of our issues with connecting to our nature. Because I think by nature, all of us are immensely loving.
mhm,
I quote Anne Frank a lot, and she has this beautiful quote where she says, like, at the heart of it all, I don't believe anyone is evil, basically.
mhm,
She's like, I
mhm.
think everyone is inherently loving, and I believe that too.
I believe
And
people are bound by evil is kind of how I say it. Like they're bound by these things that make them think in certain ways, that is what quote unquote if you want to attribute evil. I do not believe anyone born in this world is evil. I
yeah,
just can't. I cannot operate in that, and it doesn't work.
no,
And that's just my programming told me I was, and that is the
yeah.
quote unquote what's there. So I appreciate you articulating that distinction and an Anne Frank quote that I'm excited to grab
I'll
on.
have to get you the exact quote, but
Please.
I'm not a good quote person. It doesn't stick in my
We know it
brain, but
exists. That's all that matters.
yes. And, so our nature, it's like we come in with a perfectly designed blueprint, whether you believe in God or your higher self or whatever. It's like, I know who I am. And then stuff starts to get piled on top of that. It's like we get handed a blueprint by society that says, here is your one size fits all, go.
Mhm.
Nature teaches us how incorrect that is, right? When you look at even the differences between cats, I love cats, right? Cats as a species, how many different cat personalities have you met, right? How many different patterns and stripes and spots and solid colors and different eye colors and two different eye colors? Like cats, so unique, every single one of them. Flowers, same, same type of flower in my backyard. We've got three different colors sprouting right now, right? Like
Mm,
nature is constantly teaching us that things fit, oh, we have a loose category here, but there's all this variety and each individual has a different nature. And then we get into the seasons and like, oh my gosh, how much we have disconnected from the seasonal flow
mm,
and the lessons that are there about life, death, and rebirth, about planting seeds, about nurturing them until they grow and then harvesting the fruits and then taking a rest and then repeating the process. We've gotten to this point in society where it's like you are expected to be on 24/7. You rise and set every day like the sun, and you work and you work and you work, and that's it. And that's not what nature does either. Yes, the sun does do that, but when you look at the course of the year, right, we have long summer is long days, lots of light, and winter is short days and not so much light, which is teaching us like there's an amplifying period and a resting period, an expansion and a collapse. And we don't let ourselves do that as a society anymore. So we've really unplugged from all of the wisdom that nature has to offer. And that, again, I think really removes us from our nature because our nature is also that we have our own rhythm and flow and patterns and, times where we're really full of energy and times when we're low, times when we're growing and times when we're just integrating.
mhm,
And when we ignore that, we
mhm.
get sick
It's so real.
very,
And
very sick.
I am about 10 years into flow living and for my feminine cycle that I operate under, and learning just how to actually do that. I mean, I'm in it for a long time now, so it's something that's comfortable to me. And even just for those watching, a hack that as you speak, a hack that I use is when I was in Washington, out in Arkansas, it's a little different. It was like, okay, what are we doing today, weather? Like, you get to tell me, are we rainy? Are we sunny? What are we doing? And I get to respond in kind to whatever the weather is doing. Like, is it sunny? I'm gonna go on a walk. If it's rainy, I'm gonna get cozy and play with that relationship. And between
Yeah.
my cycle and just that was something that helped me get connected back in. I grew up very connected to nature, and I in many ways lost that to become the type A production. And something
Yep.
to, again, I just have such a strong religious background, and I just like to give quips for people that are stuck in it or are being affected by the concept of the fruits of the spirit, where it's like they are fruits, they grow, they take time. And in our world, it's like, you should be patient now. No, I'm not going to be patient now. I'm going to take some time. I've got a limbic brain, PTSD response. Like, what you're wanting me to do is got neurons firing and I don't have access to it. So fuck the fuck off. Go be patient somewhere else. Like,
Yeah.
you practice patience, and that's usually what comes through for me. It's like if you want to preach at me, like preach to yourself. Like, and for
Yeah.
me, so I don't know how much you know about my story. I had a very traumatic near-death experience, and I was at 3, 5, 10 PTSD attacks a day. And I
Mm.
got to see the church and religious people, spiritual people, come at me. And I mean, I was 2 years into, I was a coach and all this stuff. And so I literally did a science experiment of how do we treat someone who's at the lowest of lows. And I
Wow.
just essentially publicly destroyed my reputation by being my wild and free, traumatized self, yelling on the internet, being very liberated. And thank God I had people in my corner to help me see that I was sane, because there were certain times where I was like, okay, this is a really bad idea. Like, I'm now losing my job. I'm in a protection order. Like, I had
Mm.
some really big 3D things come after me. And I was like,
Yeah.
fuck this. I'm all in to discover what happens with liberation. And I'm a
Yeah.
white privileged girl, former life law enforcement spouse. Like, I wasn't going to get touched. And I knew that. And so there was a part of me that everyone was afraid. And I was like, this is a movie. So I essentially been living inside of a movie for 2 years, trying to expose the quote unquote demons of religious conditioning. So that's my personal passion. And I just connecting us to nature. It seems like it's such a stretch. It seems like it's so impossible. I don't know what your physical reality looks like, what your connection to nature on a daily basis, or your practices, or things that if someone is I, I don't know if you heard of the like couch to 5K. I know for me, I've
Mm.
had seasons where I'm stuck inside, or I know people in my environment who are stuck inside. It's like we're in a depressed state. Going outside is more than I can do. More than
Yeah.
I can do. It's not going to happen. Anything in your world that shows up as ideas.
So, yes, two very, very simple ideas. If you're literally like you're couch locked, you are really struggling with that depression and you cannot pull yourself to get up. First of all, been there. So, like, really want to validate that because my current practice, I'm still recovering with a lot of health issues, is literally to step out on my porch. Like, if
Mhm.
that's all I can do is like step right outside my door and like breathe the air for 5 minutes, yay. And I'm like, good job. We did it today, right? To get a little natural sunlight is ideal. But if you are experiencing that like locked state, that depression, I love to watch time-lapse videos of seeds growing on YouTube. It is like the most magical, heart-opening thing ever, like to just watch these slow-mo or time, like sped up time lapses of the seed sprouting because it gives you this awe and wonder. Like I get goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps talking about plants because they're just so cool and
I
they
mean,
give you
it's
that
our
like,
DNA. It's who we are. We're that
right.
connected to it. That's why it like calls home to ourselves. And
Yes.
4 years ago, I just had an intuitive picture of essentially, well, actually, I had a friend who's a landscaper, and I wanted to do landscaping at the house, and they said the best time to do it is the winter because that's when the roots grow the deepest. And so I
Mhm.
took that to the nth degree. And in autism hyperfixation, I was like, okay, it's winter. I'm planting the seed. This is when my roots are going to grow. And I shifted from seeing winter as the worst time of the year to be the time where I grew my roots. And
Yeah.
I really shifted that. And I'm at 4 years, and I knew, and it was just simply a belief that I was like, I think if I do this, it will produce something. And now that I've done it for 2, 3 years, I have all the fucking proof, and I'm unstoppable because I have the proof, and I know I'm like, fuck yes, winter's coming. Like we're gonna grow some, like now we have like a whole forest that we're growing roots with. So fuck yes. And 4 years ago, it was literally one little seed that I
Yeah.
planted. And so I really see the person that is on the couch. Like it is this, that's where it is, and there's no bad or wrong, and that is that conditioning, that is that programming, that is that one person you became, and it has to quote unquote die in a way. And as you were
Mhm.
speaking about the idea of going to the just on the porch, I love that. I got this word like off gassing in a way, like off gassing the old way. And so just opening a window to get some of that energy to move, taking a shower when you're able.
Yeah.
I know sensory is too much. It is this, our nervous system is what's locked, and it does need time to find safety to rest. Like it is,
Yes.
we live for X number of years, no consideration of the nervous system. I've got a left brain buzz, so we're hitting something. With no consideration. So sometimes there's a season of it gets the front seat of the bus, and we're not driving
Yep.
anywhere. It is a full stop. And how do you do the mental work to just simply make that okay? And I see that for me has been where I'm at. If I'm stuck, it's just I get to be with my mind, and that
Mhm.
is where the work is. Like I'm not ready to take action. I'll take
Yeah.
action when my mind says so. And if it's saying no, like how do I be like, okay, that's good and right? And just simply, I'm not lazy. I'm literally stuck. And there's a reason why I was programmed to be broken right now.
Yes. I mean, the system's working as designed, right? And
Exactly. Yeah.
it's people like you and I that are willing to liberate ourselves from it, no matter how scary it is, because it's not. It's not like, oh yeah, this is the easiest thing I've ever done. I took a sabbatical last month, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever done because it's not like I have money overflowing in my bank account now
Yeah.
because I choose not to hurt other people to make money. That is a
Mhm.
value of mine. I will not be exploitative. And the people with all the money in the world right now, most of them are very exploitative, like if we're really honest. So
Yep.
I'm kind of here with the average person right now, like in kind of a scary limbo state, wondering what's going to happen next. But I was like, I need this break
Hmm.
and I need to full stop. Like spirit was it
Hmm.
was either that or my health was going to completely fall apart, like
Yeah.
completely and utterly beyond the point that it is now because yes, I have chronic conditions
Hmm.
and neurodivergence, but I haven't like ended up in a long-term hospital stay yet,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And unfortunately, many of us get to that point because we have this program that we can't,
Hmm.
we can't take the break or everything's going to fall apart.
So
And I
much.
get that.
There's a content creator, I can't recall her name at the moment. She essentially said until white autistic women speak up about their healing journey, like the planet's not going to heal. And I really took to that, and I really believe that we are in a privileged position. And it isn't that it's not scary. It isn't that
Nope.
my brain wants to not be here all the time. Like it's still very scary. I just simply know at the end of the day, I have a net to fall into. And there's people that don't have those nets, and they
Yeah.
can't just stop. And the privilege of even being able to stop for so many, it's so far out of reach. And so to even
Yeah.
be considering that and going all in, and much of what I'm up to creating with Weird Full Spectrum is a space where it is safe to fall, and like all those variables are accounted for. Because when
Yeah.
you do stop, I mean, it is a train wreck in a way. Like when you cause the stop, there's a massive impact, and it could go really bad. Like it really can go really
Yeah.
bad. Like it's not
Oh,
a joke. Like you need that.
absolutely.
Yeah. Like you could lose the house, you could lose the partner, you could lose all the things. I think that's one thing that's I struggle with in spiritual communities is it's like all love and light. It's like, no, you're going into the shadows, and you may end up with a divorce, you may end up with a house gone, you may end up into a psych box, you may end up into jail. Like you don't know what you got programmed with and what generationally you're breaking. And if
Yep.
you're like us, called to some really high things, you should be going into really high places. And I just want to make sure people are protected as we break down
Yes.
the walls of the system. How do we make sure we account for the fact that the system bucks and it can hurt? So
Yes.
like it's meant to keep us in there and it doesn't want us touching on it. And so I
Right.
don't know what shows up inside of that. I do know we hit our 10-minute mark. We got 8 left. I just who you are on the planet. I'm just so excited I just like feel like I like popped the can of just something that's like I'm just getting to start enjoying and savoring who you are and just what you're up to and just I don't know, just the experience of thank you for doing the work. Thank you for going all in. Thank you for listening and creating a space where people can come to you and literally get that like just the release of the tension that everyone's carrying. Like that's what people get in
Yeah.
your energy and I can feel it myself and I'm just like fuck yes, I'm so excited that yeah, I'm just so excited for what's next. And also this the desire to ensure those that are doing it are protected, are cared for. I have a concept called helping healers heal. So it's like making sure the healer is accounted for too, because there's
Yes.
not a way to go to the next level if you don't have both accounted for. And I think I hear that's really what you were seeing is I and myself, like I was doing this at the expense of myself and I can't. So I have to full stop. I can't help any people. And knowing who I am in my heart and I can't help people, like it is a pain that's there that is like until I have my neurological support and Maslow's hierarchy needs are met, I can't really go out and sacrifice myself. And this isn't from sacrifice anymore. We actually get to do this from support. And so I don't know
Yeah.
anything inside of that that shows up as we go on.
Well, thank you for speaking on privilege because I think it's very, very important. And just because we have privilege doesn't always mean we use it because I think that there's a lot of white lady guilt out there that's floating around that's like, I'm just not going to acknowledge I have the privilege because if I acknowledge I have the privilege, that is going to mean I'm responsible for something, right? And we really like to resist that. But when we take that positive ownership of our privilege, we can make an impact. And not everybody is going to be like me, who goes out there and is like, hi, I have a giant rainbow target on my face. Please ask me questions because I want people who want to be allies to
Mhm,
have a safe space to go. And unfortunately, because of the us versus them, it shows up
mhm,
in
mhm,
that community too, right? Where it's
mhm,
like, don't ask me a question. So, like,
mhm,
I think it's important that we acknowledge what our privilege is, whatever it is,
mhm,
and then ask the question, like, what is mine to do with this? Because it's
mhm,
not everything.
mhm,
I would
mhm.
love to share a piece of wisdom
Please.
that recently came in from a friend, like a friend's therapist. I
Mhm.
love the therapy network of
Mm.
tips, just that you get to pick three things. You get to pick three things in your life that are yours to influence. So for me, it's the environment,
Uh-huh.
it's queer people, and like my brand slogan is uplifting the others, so just like getting out of the us versus them. And then it's my writing. Like those are my three big things when I was also trying to tackle the education system, the therapy system, workers rights, union. Like I can't do all of that, none of us can. So pick your three things that are yours to influence. And like I see that in you, you're getting such clarity on like really what's yours to do and where you're going to put all that energy and that love. So,
Mm. It's so
keep on
good.
keeping on.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We're at the 5-minute mark, and I do want to invite those that are watching to put your three down below or put your 20 and play with the three. I really, the picture that I instantly got, whether it's sticky notes or something, like I'm just going to put all of my things and be like, you get to pick three and like wait them out and figure out what's there because it is this aspect of I can do all things. I have been quote unquote hyperfixated, the 2-3 year cycle. So I've got so much. And I also know that like because I have so much, I can be like, oh yeah, that's your one thing. We can
Yep.
delineate what's there and that gets so exciting for
Yes.
me and so yeah, that's what's there. I'll add all of your links down below. I again, while I'm continuing with the free version of Zoom, is it I will talk for 3 hours and I have no boundaries. I like to say my love knows no bounds and I love boundaries, and so I'm like, as I'm starting to message more people who are more legit, not that the people aren't legit, it's just people who have the like more persona faces. I'm like, I have the free Zoom. Hopefully you don't judge me that I don't pay for the free. That I just
I
like
love that it's a boundary.
it
No, it's
is
a
like
genius
it's like
boundary.
it forces me to shut off. And I will speak this. I want to create and be the template to do this for free without subscriptions, and that this is accessible to everyone. And so
Yes.
as yes, I go to people who have platforms that have the paid version and I have my inadequacies show up, I want to be like, no, you can do a podcast for free. You have free Zoom.
Yes.
And at 40 minutes, that's still a lot of time and a lot of energy. And again, I will talk for 3 hours and then my nervous system will be shot and I'm down for 3 days. And so I found 40 minutes is safe. So we got the 3-minute mark. I'll add all links down below. I'm confident we'll talk again. And inside of that, anything you'd like to leave the peoples with, just your soapbox platform, anything in the sense of they've got 3 minutes and this is what you get want to say.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, our my brand value and our slogan is uplifting the others. So we are a community, a podcast, and a collection of service providers that are trying to just educate and actually meaningfully socially engage instead of just doom scrolling all day. And so if you are looking for a safe social community where you can come show up as yourself, like I welcome you into our Discord. I'm sure you'll have the link.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, we're living Lunas. I'm Safrianna. You can Google me and find out anything you want about me. I'm very public, very open. And like I said, I'm just here to, people have described it as I'm here to be the unconditional love that allows you to see that you're allowed to be you. So that's me in a
Like that
nutshell. And
six
I'm
two
just here to
life.
connect.
Is that 6-2 life? Is that us? Like that might be our 6-2. Has I have a huge resonance. I'll have to ask some other 6-2s because you might have just named that for us. And if so,
Maybe.
like I have so I have a theory because they're like, we're on the roof. I'm like, no, there's no roof. I'm on the ground and you're welcome to hang out with me. I'm not hanging out on no roof. I can't be reached. I've made myself known on the internet. I'm on if
Yes.
my roof is my ground in the dirt. So I appreciate you showing up and playing that same way because I talk to a lot of 6-2s. They're like, I'm on my roof. I'm like, no, it's time. It's go time now. Like, no more roof. So I appreciate
It's
you.
very needed right now that we just show up in love and not, again, not that love and light like one-sided, but love for the shadow and the light and the fullness that people
Mhm.
are.
That's why we say the
That
full
is the
spectrum.
key.
That's our whole thing. Yeah, the full spectrum.
Yes.
And inside of that, I literally I have this other phone that I just use for music. And I was cleaning up the thing apps and it was like leave the Discord thing. And I was like, why am I leaving Discord? I don't use Discord. So I guess I was 2 steps ahead. And I guess I will be getting Discord because I don't use Discord and I have the app on my old phone. So I'm excited to join your
Perfect.
community and play around. And so it's just again that whole what feels like 2 steps ahead sometimes with that 6-2 life of and I'll soon have human design stuff down below and just not there yet. And I got to pick my things and making sure my friends are not on the streets is where I'm at first. So that's my
Yes.
heart. And I have no clue what's next. Just thank you for showing up in your fullness and the gift that you are. And I know we're just getting started. So big love to you. We'll be
Awesome.
in touch and have the
Thank
best day.
you.
See you. Big love. Bye.